Hello, my name is Janice Litvin. I help organizations get their employees healthy and happy so that they can show up to work every day ready to work. Today, I'm talking about the happiness piece. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Happiness at work? Is that really possible? Yes, it is, and I'm going to give you my tips for how you can make that happen. First of all, what is happiness? Is it an elusive thought, that pie-in-the-sky idea that you need to have wealth or fame in order to be happy? No. Happiness comes from how you feel about yourself from within, and I'm going to break that down for you in just a moment. But first, let's go to my handy-dandy Webster's Unabridged Dictionary. And here are the words used to describe happiness: delight, contentment, joy, and pleasure. Now, I know many of you are very, very busy. You have full-time jobs, and then you go home and you have to manage your family. And I know you're thinking, I don't have time to worry about being happy. I just need to do my work. Well, I would submit to you that happiness can be found in the tiniest moments throughout the day and evening. First of all, let's look at where those feelings of happiness come from. They actually come from the brain. The brain releases 4 happiness chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And most of the information I'm giving you today comes from a book called Habits of a Happy Brain by Loretta Graziano Bruning. Let's start with dopamine. Dopamine is about social rewards. For example, a football player makes that touchdown and he's dancing and jumping around all on the field. You know he's happy. That's dopamine. Another example, you hear a favorite piece of music that you haven't heard in a long time. That gives you dopamine. It's not music that you hear over and over and over all the time, but it's something kind of new and it's favorite, or you haven't heard it in a long time. Also, seeing those first apple blossoms on the apple trees. Luckily, I live in California and we're starting to see those now. For those of you in a colder climate, spring is right around the corner, so look for those beautiful flowers. Now, how can you find dopamine at work? Dopamine comes from accomplishments. So say you've been working on a huge, difficult project that took you days, weeks, or months. Finally, you're finished, and you have that strong feeling, wow, finally I'm done. That's dopamine. That's a feeling of accomplishment. So look for those little moments throughout your day. And if you have that feeling of accomplishment, but you're so busy running around, you don't have time to really think about it, focus on it at night. Write in a journal, use a gratitude journal, and include those moments so that you can focus on them more. Another way to find dopamine is to challenge yourself with a new skill. You know, a lot of people come to me and say, I wish I could learn to be a public speaker, but I know I just can't. Did you know that public speaking has been identified as the #1 fear above death? But I'm here to tell you, you can learn it if you want to. Get to a Toastmasters meeting or start one at work. And I promise you, the day you do your first speech, you will have a huge surge of dopamine. Music is another source of dopamine, and I know a lot of you love music. Putting on some music that you love, that you haven't heard in a while, will give you that dopamine rush. The brain is trying to predict what's coming next. I remember being at the symphony a few months ago, and the music was so beautiful, and I hadn't heard it in a long time, and I was so filled with joy that at the intermission, I actually mapped out a whole new speech. Oxytocin is the second happiness chemical we're going to talk about. Oxytocin comes from a feeling of trust, being able to lean on a trusted advisor. So that's social alliances, connections, and belonging. Do you have a best friend at work? My friend Laura Putnam, author of Workplace Wellness That Works, tells us that having a best friend at work is a great way to combat loneliness and depression in the workplace. Touch is another great source of oxytocin. Now, I'm acutely aware that you can't go around touching people in the workplace anymore. But if you have a good friend at work and you're taking a walk, you can touch them on the arm or the hand, or you can even say, Can I have a hug? I need a hug today. Have you ever noticed a nurse touching a patient in a hospital bed? Nurses know all too well the healing power of touch. Volunteerism is another great way to find oxytocin. Have you ever volunteered either in a school or with some seniors or in a situation where you're feeding the less fortunate and you come away with that full feeling? That's oxytocin. There are a lot of great ways to get involved with volunteerism at work. Many large companies have a huge volunteer effort. Companies like Target and Chevron and Salesforce do all kinds of volunteer work. Get together with other people on your team and try to volunteer. Volunteering actually helps the giver more than the receiver. You'll get flooded with oxytocin when you volunteer. If you're looking for a group that needs volunteers, go to volunteermatch.org. The final piece of oxytocin is social alliances, almost the most important piece. That's another vote for setting up some sort of club at work. I've been seeing more and more women's clubs and a variety of clubs in the workplace. Speakers Club, like I mentioned before, is one great idea. What if you started a walking club or a drinking challenge or a healthy recipe club? Anything aligned with wellness is a great idea because you get the double dose of the healthy activity and the oxytocin. Are you lucky enough to have a fitness center in your company? I'm aware that a lot of people don't take advantage of their company fitness center. If they're offering group exercise like Zumba, yoga, or strength training, go to those classes, get the social connection and the physical activity. The third happiness chemical is called serotonin. Serotonin comes from self-respect, respect from others, pride in a job well done, and self-confidence. I'm not talking about the kind of pride where you go around bragging about yourself. I'm talking about that feeling of accomplishment from within yourself. And when you're called upon to lead a project, say yes. Don't say no, even if you don't feel qualified. The person asking you wouldn't ask if they didn't think you were qualified. So serotonin depends on your own expectations of yourself. The fourth and final happiness chemical is endorphins. I know many of you have heard of endorphins, referred to as the runner's high. But in reality, endorphins are released when you exceed your capacity. So if you run the same path every day for the same amount of time and the same degree of difficulty, you'll get endorphins at the beginning, but not after you've been doing it for a while. The trick is to find a longer path, a harder path, or some other level of difficulty, like running up a hill, for example. Also, small drips of endorphins come from a belly laugh or a good cry. I don't recommend you walk around the office laughing or crying, but if you go out for a walk with your friend and have a few good laughs, then you'll get some endorphins. Now, Heidi Hanna, who's known as the stress detective, reminds us to take a break every hour for 5 minutes. I'm aware that not everyone feels comfortable leaving their desk every hour, but try at least during lunch to get away from your desk for 5, 10, 30 minutes, an hour is best, and take that break. You'll recharge and you'll rest, and then you'll be more productive the rest of the day. So there you have it. We've talked about the 4 happiness chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Just to recap, dopamine comes from social rewards, feelings of accomplishment, and also favorite music that you haven't heard in a while. Oxytocin comes from social connections, trust, belonging, volunteerism. Serotonin comes from self-respect, respect from others, and pride in a job well done. Endorphins come from physical activity beyond your existing capacity and laughing and crying. So the next time you're feeling pressured at work, try to get away from your desk, take a walk around the building or a walk outside with a friend if possible, have a few belly laughs and try to have some fun, and focus on all these areas of joy that you can find throughout the day. If you found value in any of my content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on my social media. I'm especially active on LinkedIn. I'll respond to every message. Thank you so much.